And now joining us to talk more about the president's address is UWL political science professor Joe Heim. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Well, first of all, I don't know if we necessarily heard a whole lot of new ideas tonight, but some people might say we did hear a much different tone from Trump.
The tone was a lot different. Instead of the controversial kind of things that he throws out a lot of times, the little flippant things, he stuck to the script. The tone was definitely more positive, more laid back. He didn't throw any red meat out to the people. However, it was really not quite the speech that laid out a really full agenda that I was expecting. In many respects, most of what we heard tonight, we heard in various speeches last fall and through the first period of the administration.
We did hear him say again that he wants to repeal and replace Obamacare. How different do you think the Republican plan is going to be going forward here?
That is the $64 million question here, because apparently Congress cannot come up with an alternative. They can replace, repeal very easily. Everybody kind of agrees with that. Replace is the question they can't seem to come up with a majority on. And the one thing, he wasn't a little short on specifics here, but he did talk specifically about specific principles that he was expecting out of the reform, basically. That was one of the areas that he was really very specific about, kind of telling Congress, this is what I expect in this bill.
You know, a lot of people, too, were listening to President Trump say once again that he'd like to really beef up our defense, sometimes maybe even spending up to $50 billion. But at the same time, you have conservatives like Paul Ryan. I don't know, is he likely to go along with the president?
Well, if you add up the dollar amounts here, the $53 million really is not paid for. He says it's going to come out of other parts of the budget, domestic discretionary funding. But the reality is the money's not there. Talking about tax cuts. Very substantial tax cuts, basically, that the question is really where the money is. He's going to buck against a Congress who doesn't want to necessarily increase the national debt. He didn't really talk about the national debt in here to any degree at all.
He did end on a very positive note, trying to rally Democrats and Republicans to work together.
That was a new message in a way. If you're looking for something really new here, he had a few little nuggets of new things in there that they kind of catch. He mentioned immigration reform, but the ending really was it was almost Obama-esque in some respects. It was very positive, very visionary for the future. Basically, wanted to pull together, unify the country. And that was kind of a very positive way of ending that kind of a speech, frankly.
Well, do you have a kind of an idea, speeches like this in the past, kind of how this compares? Because he tends to have his own style.
Yeah, this was closer to what other presidents have done. This was pretty much a State of the Union address. He talked about what he had done so far and what he's planning on doing, basically. So this was a State of the Union address without a lot of real detail specifics, very much like previous presidents. And by the way, he was presidential. I have to say that, because I think he was much more presidential in this speech than he oftentimes is in other things.
All right, Joe, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.